Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslimah. I'm your host, Zara Pedersen, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about your relationship with Allah. It's a very exciting topic and I absolutely love this topic. But before we get into it, I do have a couple of announcements to make. We're going to go through some stuff really quickly and then we'll get into the actual topic today. So, as I've kind of alluded to in like early December, I think it was, if you listen to a couple of those episodes, that I now, having been in or doing Manifesting Muslimah now for a year, have decided to change a couple of things around. Just like things of how like I produce content, the services I offer. Basically, I feel like I've been doing Manifesting Muslimah now for some time, and going into it I had like an idea of what I wanted it to be and so on and so forth, but obviously nothing works unless there's a market for it, so to speak. And alhamdulillah, you guys have really proven to me that there's a market for it. And the things that I wanted to change is more to give this Manifesting Muslimah longevity and to really spruce up the way that I deliver content and my services to you so that you can get the most out of it. And one thing that I've sort of noticed early on was, for myself, was that I actually really love connecting with you guys, which is one thing that I had a little bit of hesitancy around the first time, being a massive introvert. And so the first thing that you noticed was, or that I've spoken about, was that I've removed now my e-services, like my online courses, and I'll be doing live courses. It's going to still be online, but it's like not going to be pre-recorded anymore. It's going to be live with me, inshallah. So that's the first thing that I have spoken about that I wanted to do, and that is already happening. And it's even more so a little bit scary now for me, because I've also decided that this month, inshallah, towards the end of this month, as I'm sitting down and recording, which is the beginning of January, I will actually be in Denmark, and I will also be hosting my very first in-person live event. And that wasn't necessarily sort of like planned out for this, but I kind of just decided, I'm going to be in Denmark anyway. I've got a few days, and I just kind of really want to meet some of you like in person as well, and just kind of see how it would be to have like an actual in-person event. Now, of course, I can't offer those very often simply because of the fact that I live in Sicily. And the majority of you guys, I don't actually know if any of you are in Sicily who are listening to the podcast or watching my content on TikTok and whatever, but so I kind of, it's not necessarily going to be something that I'll be offering on a regular basis, unfortunately, for the time being. Maybe in the future, who knows? But for the time being, I just kind of saw an opportunity to offer an in-person event as I am in Denmark. And so I will be doing that, inshallah, towards the end of the month. I will link it in wherever I can link all that good stuff. Go check it out if you are in Copenhagen towards the end of the month. I think it's going to be on I can't remember if I put it on the 28th or 29th. No, 29th of January, inshallah. Just double check the link just in case, because if I'm remembering it wrong. But I will be hosting my very first in-person event, and I'm really excited about it. I'm also a little bit nervous and scared, but that's a good thing. It's like nervous and scared in the good way. Yeah. So like, I'm excited. I've already had a few people reach out and say that they'd like to come. It is like a limited people kind of event. It's going to be small, 25 people maximum is what's available for. And I'm actually going to talk about speak a little bit about what we're also going to be talking about in this episode. But of course, on that event, we're going to go a lot more into detail with the systems, the things, everything like that, how you can kind of like really dig deep into the topic that we're talking about today. So that's the first thing that I wanted to say. So if you're in Copenhagen, or you'd like to go to Copenhagen and see me there, then, book your seat, come see me. It's going to be so much fun, inshallah. I'm really excited for this, even though I'm nervous and scared, but I love it. And I'm really excited to sort of like push myself out of my own comfort zone and do something that feels a little bit scary, but I also know is going to bring me so much joy and learning, growth, all that good stuff, inshallah. So that's the first thing as well. Now, in terms of the podcast, so whether or not you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching the videos on Spotify, or you're listening just to the audio, wherever you're listening to your podcasts from, there's going to be a couple of little changes in terms of how the podcast is going to go forward. Not too many big changes or anything. I really, really like uploading a podcast episode twice a week. So inshallah, I will continue to do that. However, producing 2 long form episodes, which anything over 10 minutes is a long form in my book, specifically because also that I'm just one person, and so having to sit down and record and then edit it, upload it, and then if you've had a one-on-one session with me, if you're in the membership or anything like that, I live in like a tiny cave type situation, studio apartment, and the Wi-Fi here is really horrendous. So it takes me like to from everything to like filming, editing, and uploading takes me a good 8 hours minimum. So it's like a full day's work. I don't mind it. I absolutely love it. But to find the time to do that, definitely like at least twice a week, it can be a little bit. I need to find the time, and I am doing a lot of other things. Alhamdulillah, I'm definitely not complaining. I absolutely love it, but it can be a little bit challenging some weeks. So I've decided that going forward, I'll still be putting out a new episode every Monday and Thursday, inshallah. But I'm going to change the format slightly so that on Mondays, I will still be uploading a long format episode. So where we go deep diving into something specifically. And that could be on anything really, like pretty much the way that the episodes have been so far. But then on Thursdays, I'm going to do a shorter form episode where, so it takes me slightly less time to go into it. Let's see how it goes, because let's be real, I talk and I talk and I talk and I talk. So let's see how it goes. But what I would really love to do on that Thursday episode is doing something slightly different where we're going to focus on something very specific in the Quran, whether it be one specific ayat or a couple of ayats in a row, a specific hadith, something in the sunnah, and then we can learn something together. I kind of already do it a little bit over on my TikTok, but I kind of want to do even more of that, because I really find quite good enjoyment and great enjoyment in, being able to learn with you guys and share like the things that I'm learning. But also because I really appreciate the feedback that I get. I love to hear you guys' thoughts around the same hadiths, the same ayats and stuff like that, and how they've been applying to you. And so for that reason, I would like to try and go moving forward every Thursday. We do like a bit of it's going to be a little bit shorter, of course, just to give me, again, like that's the whole purpose of this, is to basically try and cut down, find some more hours in my week to do all the other things that I'm trying to do. So inshallah, we can do that together, and then we'll see how it goes. You guys will have to let me know if it works for you as well, if it's interesting for you. If it isn't, then, we'll figure it out. But honestly, that's kind of something that I really want to do. And I've wanted to do it in sort of like my regular content so far as well. But the problem is that in my head, I'm thinking, how can I speak? Well, I can, but I've been thinking, having to talk about only one ayah for a whole episode feels like a big stretch. But then at the same time, I'm like, but if I just take one ayah and talk about it for one episode and then make it a shorter episode, that might also be kind of fun. And it might give, for those of you who might not be super into like really long episodes, that could be a really good thing for you as well. Anyway, that's what I've been thinking about, and I'm going to try this out, inshallah, moving forward, and then we'll see how it goes. So every Monday, there's going to be like that long form, like how it's been so far. And then every Thursday, we're going to go in with a slightly shorter episode. And then we're going to talk about something very specific in the Quran. We're going to learn something together in the Sunnah, in the Hadith, something like this, okay? So that, I think, is everything. No, I'm not even done yet. Oh my goodness. Okay. It's good. All of this is good. I'm actually really excited for this. It's giving me new motivation to really tackle all of this, inshallah, with a lot more excitement. Also, by the way, in case you're wondering what like the hours, I know you're not asking, but I just want to make sure that I also just kind of, so you know where I want to put those hours. I know you're not asking, but I just want to tell you because I'm excited about it. Because every Friday, if you're not already, if you haven't done so already or you don't know, I send out a newsletter because it's Jummah and I want to like send out a little reminder. I like writing. I am a writer. I'm a published author in Denmark, like traditionally published. I also have my own books that I have self-published. And I love writing. It's such a beautiful outlet for me. And I feel like I can explain myself in ways that I can't when I'm speaking. So one thing that has kind of stopped me from being very consistent with my newsletter on Fridays is because usually on Thursdays, I spend the majority of the day doing this, like recording and editing and uploading and all that good stuff. And by the end of it, I'm so tired. And then I have my Thursday membership meeting and stuff. So by the end of it, I feel usually quite tired, and then I don't have the motivation to sit down and then also write a newsletter. And so that's kind of like where I'm hoping if I can get that time back a little bit or like minimize some of that time, I'll be more consistent with my newsletter. But anyway, that's definitely, if you like to have a good written blog post situation, you like to read some stuff every Friday, then that is where you need to go. Sign up for my newsletter. Again, click the link wherever you can and then check that out. Sign up for that. It's absolutely free, and it's inshallah from now on with these changes that I'm going to be implementing, it's going to be on that regular every single Friday. Inshallah, bi'idhnillah, I won't miss another one. So that's just to let you know about that. Okay, next thing, and then I'll get into the actual episode. Don't worry, it's going to be a good one. Inshallah, next week on Monday, will be leaving for Denmark. I'm going to go to Denmark because on the 16th of January, inshallah, my mum and dad and I are going to go on Umrah. My mum and dad have gone before, but this will be my very first time. And I'm really excited about it. I'm a little bit nervous as well. I would like to talk with you guys, of course, when I'm finished my Umrah, inshallah. I'd like to come and make an episode with you guys about it as well. I'll do a Q&A and all that good stuff. But because I will be traveling on Monday and again on Thursday, because the Mondays where I go to Denmark, and on the Thursday I'll fly from Denmark to Medina, inshallah. And those are the 2 days that I would otherwise usually sit down and record. I'm going to try and pre-record for those 2 days. But here's the exciting thing. While I am on Umrah, I don't want to sit down and record podcasts. So again, I'm going to try and see how much I can pre-record before I leave. But I'm actually kind of hoping that I can wrestle my dad into recording a couple of episodes with me for the podcast. So with a little bit of luck, we will have a special guest on for a few episodes. He's definitely going to want to do it. It's not going to be like a whole thing. But inshallah, he'll agree to sit down with me while we are in Mecca or Medina, inshallah, and record a couple of episodes with me there. And I haven't really figured out yet if I want to do a Q&A or it's just he and I just having like little conversations. So that's something for you to look forward to nonetheless. If I'm going to do what I'm thinking, I might also do a little bit of a Q&A situation with him. So if you have a question for my father, who, by the way, for those of you who don't know, my dad is an Imam Abdul Wahid Pedersen. So if you have questions that you'd like an imam to answer, then go follow me over on Instagram at Manifesting Muslimah, because that's where I'll be setting in, when I see my dad, I'll be setting up like that whole Q&A situation in the stories, so you can put your questions in when it is the time for us to record that. So definitely go do that if that is something that would be of interest to you. So the next like month or so is going to be a little bit interesting because there might be a couple of changes. I have to get used to the new routine, so on and so forth. But I do hope that you can bear with me as I am, changing these things around. I'm very excited for the changes. It gives me like new motivation and inspiration for the podcast, and I absolutely love it. I just love recording it. You know this already. I've said it to you before. And I'm just kind of hoping that this gives it new life and gives it more of that longevity that I'm hoping for, because I really don't want to burn out on this because I can't keep up with my own posting schedule. Okay. Okay, how long? Oh my goodness, we've already been going for like 15 minutes. But anyway, all of that was very necessary for me to say though. Okay, so let's get into the actual topic episode today. Let's talk about your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, this is something you probably have heard me talk about quite a bit, and especially if you've worked with me, whether one-on-one, whether or not you've just sent me a DM, whether you're in my membership, anything like that, you will have heard that this is something that I am 1,000% like. This is phase one, stage one. This is your foundation. This is it. It all begins and ends with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the reasons that I really wanted to speak on this today is because we've gone into the new year now, and I'm noticing that a lot of people, even, my opinions about new year and all that aside, are still sort of like putting a lot of pressure on themselves to sort of like do a lot of things with the new year. And there's a lot of anxiety to keep up with things and so on and so forth. Like, where do I begin? How do I do it? All of that stuff. And my advice to you, if you are thinking about changing anything in your life, is always start with your relationship with Allah. And that doesn't mean that you need to change necessarily your relationship with Allah, but deepen your relationship with Allah, broaden it, make it more significant, make it more important, bring it more to the forefront. Whatever it is that you might need to do that. That is where you begin. That is your starting point. That is every time you think about doing something, that is number one place you go. And from there you move. The reason why I will speak about this a lot to people is because it is such a overlooked subject for a lot of us, which, when I say that, you might initially be like, what are you talking about, Zara? Of course it isn't. But hear me out here, because this is what I have, as I said, in the last year, I've noticed some things keep coming up for a lot of you. And one of them is, I don't know if I trust in Allah, but then at the same time, the follow through on that trust is not there. I don't know if I believe that Allah wants me to have these things. I don't know. I think Allah is punishing me. And all of these messages and comments and feedback that I've been getting have really shown me that there's a huge disconnect within the Ummah from between ourselves individually and Allah. And that doesn't mean that our deen is low, that iman is low, that we're not believers. It means that we haven't learned to prioritize our relationship with Allah. And that is like a very big distinction to make here, that there has to be a prioritizing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not just like in terms of praying or, how you dress or anything like that, but in the way that you think about Allah, the way that you understand Allah, the way that you know Allah to be, how you believe Allah to be, and how you approach Allah, and in return, how He approaches you. Okay, this all comes from your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the things that I have noticed through my work in the last year or so is that most of us, myself included, haven't really been taught that. That's not really something that we go to like Quran school to learn, or Islam school or Arabic school, or whatever we've gone through as children. If we're not living in Muslim countries, as myself as a Danish girl, had to go every Sunday, and the Sundays was both for learning Arabic, reading and writing, which I never took that seriously, and I regret it so much to this day, but also sometimes to learn things about Islam. And the thing that I remember is that a lot of the teaching were based on things to do, things not to do, how to pray, how not to pray, what is haram, what is halal. But none of it was around who is Allah to you, how to create a relationship with Allah, how to create a connection between you and your religion, what faith looks like when you're approaching it from a position of love and yearning and need and desire to want Allah in your life. And I'm not judging any of these people or my parents for not teaching it, and I'm not judging anybody in your life for not teaching you that either as a child. I think it's just one of those things where times have changed in a way where we are more aware of our individuality and our rights to choose. And it's easier today to choose different religions than it was, say, even 50 years ago. And I know that sounds really weird when I say it that way, but it's the truth. And so 50 years ago, maybe a little bit more, but not really. 50 years ago, it would be absurd to not be Muslims if your parents were, or for a Christian family to have a child that then converts to Islam. Do you know what I mean? Whereas today we see it more and more and more because people understand their choice and they feel empowered to make their own decisions. Now, the thing about that is, of course, that is a beautiful thing, that we have to understand that we're the ones who are making these decisions. But if we're not learning or teaching the next generations to connect with Allah from an emotional place as well, from a deeper place than just you must, otherwise you will burn forever in hellfire, then it is more likely that either A, these people are going to leave Islam because they don't feel emotionally connected to it, or B, you have what I think a lot of people like, and I hate this term, but I still use it because I don't know what other term to use. You have a quite large group of what in Denmark we call culture Muslims, where you are Muslim based on your culture because that's just the way that you do things. That's just the way I was raised, rather than Muslim because you are truly believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet and the angels. And that can be quite problematic because not only because these people can feel quite lost and disconnected to their religion and their path, but also in the ummah in general, you know, how we stand as Muslims, it weakens us as an ummah because some people don't feel as passionately towards their religion because they don't have that connection. And then when we are guiding each other based on Islam, based on the guidance of what Allah is telling us, what the Sahaba did, from the Sunnah, all of these things, we are met with people, as I have, come to learn in the last year, people who struggle to find that tawakkul, who struggle to find that faith and trust in Allah that the things are going to happen for them. And so it's harder to reach people. It's harder to help each other out. And we then start to see within the ummah this crackling, this our fortress as Muslims break down because it was never built with something solid. It was, the foundation was just water and mud. Well, no, water and mud I think is quite good. I don't know. I'm not a builder, but I think cow dung is supposed to be more powerful. I don't know. But the point is just, it's not built on something that is sustainable. It's not built on something that'll last. And as a result, it only takes a small push for it to crumble and fall apart. And that is what's happening because Astaghfirullah, I've some of the comments I've received and the private messages, I pray for a lot of us and a lot of you because I see that there is this huge disconnect, and I want to help you. I do genuinely want to help you get that connection to Allah back, because that is what will help you. That is where that hope lies. I think it was in the last episode or the episode before last, I don't remember, where I spoke about this friend of mine here who I wanted to guide him on something. When I asked him if he was religious, he was like, I'm not really quite sure. And I said, and at that point in my own head, I was like, I don't know if I can guide you then, because Allah and having that relationship with Allah really puts within us such an element of hope and trust and faith that things will work out for the best, for the betterment of us. And if somebody doesn't have that, you're relying on yourself, you're relying on society, you're relying on people who have shown not to be reliable. You're relying on things that cannot promise you an outcome that will work for you or be the best for you. And that is dangerous. That is dangerous, and it is, it doesn't last. It holds no value. And this is where you get this sense of hopelessness from. And I see that sense of hopelessness in people who pray 5 times a day. diligently, on time, who are doing absolutely everything by the book in terms of the rules, but they'll still turn around to me, somebody who is struggling with other things within my religion, and ask me for guidance on how I can have this much faith in Allah. And I keep coming back to them. It's because I doubled down on creating that, because when I actually don't remember if I've shared this story with you guys here on the podcast, but I will now, just in case I haven't. I was raised a Muslim. We know this, or I don't know if you know this. If you don't, hi. I was raised in a Muslim household. My dad is an imam. And I was taught the way that most of us are taught through, like, the culture, traditions. This is just how we do it, and this is how to do, and this is what not to do, and whatever and whatever. And if you don't, then hellfire and burn for eternity, right? And personally, for me, it pushed me away from Islam in a way, because in many ways, because I had a lot of anxiety as a child. I still do. I take daily medication for my anxiety. My brain doesn't fire up the way it's supposed to fire up when it comes to dopamine and stuff like that. And so it was very easy for me to then create a lot of anxiety and fear around religion and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it ultimately, when I started, in my later teens, to think a little bit more about myself and create my own identity, and, not rely so much on my mum and dad to tell me what to do, I started to think, I don't think I'm Muslim. Like, I think I'm Muslim, astaghfirullah, but I think I'm Muslim because my mum and dad are telling me to be Muslim. But I don't feel a connection to Islam. I fear the things that they're telling me, because everybody would. Nope, like even an atheist would be, if I'm sure, the thought of hellfire is a scary thing, and burning for an eternity is a scary thing. And so I was fearful of those things, but I didn't have the connection. And so I actually, even though I denied it at the time, and for a long time, I probably left Islam for a good 10 years, and I did a lot of stupid stuff. And eventually I came to a point in my, I think I was 26, 27, when I realized, none of this is making me happy. I'm needing something. I'm not good on my own. And I recognized in that moment, I actually believe in God. I believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I started doing a little bit of research here and there just to figure out what direction do I want to take this in. And one thing that I had to make very clear for me was, I believe in God. That's it. That was my first statement. I believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so for me, it was very important that I then made sure that I prioritized God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and God in my life. And I'm glad that I did it at that time that way, because it meant that I started off with creating a bond and a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then built the Islam around it, or added slowly as I started to read more and stuff, because I also knew that I think Islam is the one for me, because at that point I'd already, through school and all the other things, educated myself on some of the other religions, and none of them made sense to me. The only one that actually made sense to me was Islam, but I just didn't have the connection. And the connection came by connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once I had that connection, I started to add little things. From this is what we do, this is what we don't do, this is how I say, this is how to pray, this is, I had to relearn all of it from scratch. But the thing that I focused on, and I still do to this day, is always and will forever, inshallah, be my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Always and forever will be that, because that is where my religion begins and ends. Without Allah, the religion wouldn't be there. It's all around Allah. If Allah wasn't in the equation, I wouldn't be a Muslim. I know that sounds ridiculous, right? But that is, I think, for a lot of people, I think I spat at you. I'm so sorry. I'm a very spitty person today. But I think for a lot of people, the way that I see them practice Islam is just Islam, and then they kind of sideline Allah quite a bit. So it feels like it is Islam without Allah. And even though, subconsciously, consciously, they know Allah is there, they know that, but the way that they approach their Islam feels very, Allah is a side thought. It's more about just making sure that the prayers are on time. But who are you praying to? How do you approach the prayer? Because you're coming to Allah in that moment. It's not just about tick, now I've prayed that, tick, now my asr, tick, now my, no, that's not it. It's who we're doing it for. It's the devotion and the surrendering to that entity, the worship specifically to Allah. So Allah has to be at the very forefront of your mind as a Muslim. That has to be it. Because as I said at the beginning of this episode, everything begins and ends with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I always say to people, when you think about Allah, what do you think of? And a lot of people can't answer that question. They start saying things like, the creator of the universe, the one who will judge me on Judgment Day, the one, he sees everything. That's facts about Allah. That's different. We all know this, but what do you think? And then I will give my answer and then say, he's my best friend, he's my guide, he's my leader, he is my protector, he's my trustee, he's my safety net, he's the light in my darkness, and I give, personal, relationship type, like how I would speak to my best friend or about my best friend or about my parents. Like, who's dad? Well, dad is the one who who made you with your mum. No, that's not it. Like, yeah, we know what a dad is, but who is your dad to you? Like, what is Allah to you? And you need to be able to answer that question for yourself. And for some people, the answer might be different. The answer might sound slightly different because the relationship between you and Allah is different. And when you look at it like that, and when I start asking people that question and they start thinking about it, they say, Allah is the one that is judging me. Allah is the one that's keeping me away from things. Allah is the one, from things that I want. Allah is the one who makes it difficult for me. Allah is the one who's keeping me in suffering, and some people have that relationship with Allah. And so that's something to work on. So that's just, again, some things for you to think about. It's a great big subject. I could continue talking and forever and a day about this because, again, you know me, I love this subject. But I would also really, really love to connect with you guys about this subject, which is why, as I said, I will be in Copenhagen on, I think it was the 29th of January. If you're in Copenhagen, I will be talking about this subject and I will give you specific guidance and some tips and advice on how you can connect deeper with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you're in Denmark, go sign up. There's 25 seats available. There will not be a replay. There won't be anything. It is a live event. You have to be there or you are going to miss out. And there's only 25 seats. No more seats will be added to that event. And inshallah, for everybody else, I will be doing this also as an online course, not pre-recorded, an online webinar live situation thing. But I think that will come sometime in February, inshallah. So there will be a little bit of time. So if you are in Denmark, sign up to that course. If you're if you're international and you want the online thing, follow me everywhere you can, and then I will announce, of course, in time when I will set up this event again for a webinar situation thing. And that'll be it. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. I know there was a lot of talk about just stuff and things and ad hoc and whatever, admin, I don't know, all the stuff in the background. But I do appreciate you for listening, for joining, for sharing, for rating and reviewing. I've seen your rates and reviews and I thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you so much for doing that for me. And I love your comments and your feedback. So please continue to do that. Don't forget that if you want to work with me, you can book a one-on-one session with me, or you can join my membership group. Everything is only for women. Sorry, guys, I have been getting a couple of messages from you. It's not that I don't want to help you. It's just that I'm better at helping women and I don't feel comfortable sitting and having a one-on-one with a man that I don't know. So please do find somebody else. Speak to somebody else that might be able to help you with that. But for women, absolutely book a one-on-one, join my membership group. It is absolutely amazing community in there. And yeah, I think that's it. I'm going to jump off now. I've been speaking forever. I keep spitting at you. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to. I'm a spitty person today. It is what it is. I'm going to go. I don't know, dry out my mouth or something. And then I will see you inshallah in Thursday's episode, where we're going to start for the first time talking about something like it's going to be a shorter format, all that good stuff. Anyway, stop talking, Zara. I'll see you in my next episode inshallah. But until then, my darling friend, please don't forget to live in love.